Hey folks, it's Laura with Raintree Nursery, and I have the wonderful good pleasure of being at an incredible community service organization today. This is Good Cheer Foodbank and Thrift Stores. One of the executive directors is Stephanie Turco. You have so much going on here. Tell us about what you do.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
So we are the food bank for the south end of Whidbey Island.
Mm-hmm.
We were founded in 1962 as a toy drive for Christmas. A group of church friends got together to make sure that their neighbors had toys one really hard Christmas. From there, it morphed into a thrift store, which then became the need for food. And so in the 70s, we kind of pivoted and became more of a food bank than thrift stores. But to this day, our food bank is still supported by the revenues from 2 thrift stores. So we have a donation center here where people can drop off gently used household goods for us to sell to the community. And that funds everything that you see here. So our food bank is set up like a grocery store, as you can see. We like giving people the option of choosing what they need instead of giving them a box of food. Everything in here has a certain number of points associated with it. And then each family that comes here gets an allotment of points based on their family size that they can then spend on what it is that they need. We try to focus on as much fresh produce as possible. And so fresh produce and whole foods have a lower point value and more processed foods have a higher point value. And we're trying to find the balance point between knowing that people don't always have time to cook. So how can we offer some prepared foods for lower point values to make sure everyone has access to healthy food? We also have a garden out front and another site nearby. The garden out front is more of a community space. We have a pizza oven. We like to feed our volunteers who come work with us.
And it's beautiful out there. It's just gorgeous.
It is.
And it's right by the road where
Exactly.
people can drive by and they can see the garden and remember that it's here. And wow, it's just a fantastic placement.
Exactly. It's open for anyone to come in anytime they want. A lot of people are really excited to just go and walk around while they're waiting for their groceries and then turn in the food bank. We also give away plant starts to the community, so people come and peruse our free plant starts table so they can take things home and grow them themselves. A lot of people in the community donate a lot of the excess produce back to us, so we're able to actually expand how much produce we can give people, having them grow for their neighbors.
Satellite growers.
Exactly. We also have an on-site commercial kitchen. So a lot of those excesses that we get, we can process and preserve for distribution later. When we might not have fresh options, we at least have produce options.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. You have so much going on. I am so excited to share this with everybody today. Shall we?
Let's.
All right. So we are in a large broadacre portion of the property. It's not up front. It's kind of in the back here. What is this part called?
So this space is called the Big Acre. Acre stands for Abundant Community Resources for Everyone. We're on school district property. This was an unused baseball field that a previous garden manager decided could be better used as a farm. So here we have slowly started shifting most of the production to the winter. So either crops that we can store and distribute throughout the winter or that will survive in the fields that we can harvest as needed.
Yeah, so like pumpkin, squash in general.
Lots of winter squash, leeks. We do a bunch of kale and collards. My favorite, overwintering cauliflower that has to live in the ground for 6 months before it forms heads in April.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we also do a lot of garlic, which is where we're standing here. This is our garlic plot.
Yeah.
Garlic is probably one of the most important crops we can grow for the food bank. We really want to encourage people to cook at home, but the 2 things you have to cook are spices and garlic. And given how expensive garlic is, it's not something that we are able to purchase or that is easy to donate.
Yeah.
But we can grow a lot of it. So we grow the 2 types of garlic here, soft neck and hard neck. The soft neck we can store longer into the spring,
Right.
and the hard neck will give us garlic scapes. So we have earlier version of garlic before the fresh stuff is ready to be harvested.
Nice. And so, I mean, you've got garlic for what? Like 9 months in its various different forms?
Pretty much. We also grow green garlic. So early in the spring, we have green garlic, basically like green onions or scallions, but garlic form. And that usually will oftentimes fill the gap between when the garlic scapes are ready and when we run out of our last spring garlic. So our goal is to have garlic all year round.
Because it's so important. Yeah.
It's so
for flavor
important.
and nutrition.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very nice. Now, how does what you grow here differ from what you grow on the street side garden?
So our garden in front of the food bank, the Good Cheer Garden, is mostly what we grow only for the summer. We have a lot of support from backyard gardeners and local farmers. So we really don't need a lot of fresh produce. That mostly supplements what they bring us.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we have enough green beans or snap peas or lettuce for everyone to take some, but we don't need the same quantity as we would here. In the winter, no one brings us produce. No one else is really growing in the winter.
Right.
So we fill that gap for ourselves by growing as much as we can for winter.
That makes sense. Wow. Yeah. That idea of storage. People have this misconception that things grow all year round. And we talk about 4-season gardening. People are like, okay, well, great. What do I grow in the wintertime? And I always have to remind folks, no, you're holding what you grew in the fall
Exactly.
through the winter, and you're eating your preserved things, you're eating your dried things.
And everything that we're harvesting all winter long, we're planting next month in July.
Yes, that's right.
So everything basically is mature by the end of October, and it just sits outside until we need it. There's really no work that happens in winter gardening, just harvesting.
Yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, we're so mild here in the Pacific Northwest, we can actually store stuff outside.
Exactly. It's a giant refrigerator.
Yes, that makes it simple. Nice. That's
simple.
the logistics. I'm sure have taken a while to fine tune.
They have. This is, I think, our 3rd or 4th season where we've shifted to this mostly winter production state. And we're at the point where we finally have a pretty good idea of when things actually need to be planted to mature and be ready and last through the winter.
Nicely done. So right here I've got Courtney and Parker, who are interns working with the food bank and learning how to farm, developing the skills to go forward and grow more food for the community at large. How did you stumble upon this opportunity?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, so I had been working also as an AmeriCorps in social services. I was at a maternity shelter, and I had worked in food a little bit before that, and after that very intense experience, there is kind of nothing like being in tune with nature and getting in the dirt, so I knew I needed that kind of for my soul. So Washington has a really big opportunity in finding food jobs as opposed to Ohio, which is where I'm from. They're there, but they're different. So I kind of just came out here knowing that the opportunity would be there, and it was.
Yeah.
Nice.
And pretty similar for myself too. I graduated college back in May of 2021, and I graduated with an environment natural resource degree. So it was kind of like I had all this scientific knowledge and stuff, but I also had like a deep interest in kind of more social services oriented things. But how to combine those two things was really hard for me. And I knew agriculture was kind of like the number one thing. I was like, how do we grow our food well? So it was a huge problem, but I didn't want to prioritize growing food in deprivation to like social services and stuff. But Good Cheer is a really good way to, was the way I found to combine those two things. It was like such a unique model.
Yes, yes, that's what I keep coming back to. What Good Cheer does is something I just don't see in other places, where you have perennial food plants, where you have a gleaning program with people on the island, where you have row crops, where you have a food bank, and you also have a social space that is also a garden that you can see from as you drive down the road and be reminded of how everybody eats, you know, and all the folks here have an opportunity to participate in that way in whatever aspect calls to them. It's a phenomenal model. You just don't run across it. But to see it all come together here, it must feel really satisfying to be able to participate. I mean, you're building your own skills, which is awesome, and then also giving it back at the same time.
Yeah, learning and educating, I think, in the same space, because you have volunteers coming in, and actually some of the volunteers know way more than I do, but then some might not. So it's very, collaborative.
Yes. Oh, that's a great word
with
for
the
it.
greater community.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for everything you're doing here, for paying it forward and learning those skills to keep that food supply solid and growing more farmers.
Of course.
It's good work. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting us.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate it.
So I have to say, I've never been to a food bank that has its own orchard. This is wonderful. Tell us about what prompted you to plant some perennial food plants here.
So we planted this orchard in 2016 when we started this site, and we added a small orchard to increase the diversity of fruit that we had available to our food bank shoppers. Out here there are apple trees, a peach tree, some quince, plum, and Asian pears.
Nice.
We also have a gleaning program, and so there are a number of landowners across the island who donate their trees to us every year, and volunteers go and pick the fruit from all of the trees and bring it to the food bank, where we process and preserve it and store it as long as we can and give away fresh fruit throughout the winter.
That's brilliant. And I see that some of the things that you've planted here, the Asian pears, quince, they're long storage fruit.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, so smart.
Exactly. We don't want to have everything ready at the exact same time. We want to have some things available later in the season.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be some really great late season pear trees that we could go pick in November and December, just so we could have more fresh fruit in those months.
And that's so funny because one of our most popular videos is one that helps people identify when pears are mature, which is different than when they're ripe. And so, knowing your trees, when, on your calendar, when you send the crew out to go harvest those trees would really depend on your prior knowledge and your relationship with the tree. Yeah.
And with our volunteers who know trees. We have a lot of great volunteers who know trees way better than anyone on staff, and they lead those crews to make sure we're getting fruit at the right time.
That's so smart. Yeah, that's a wonderful way to broaden your volunteer base, that you are not necessarily going to have somebody handing out food. You can have people gardening, you can have people gleaning, you can have people keeping track of things and calling to say, okay, you know what, those trees over there, they're going to get harvested in about 2 weeks. You planned for that, right?
Exactly.
That's just, having everybody involved in the community support, that's beautiful. It's really inspiring.
It is. We should all be part of our food system.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for showing us around. There is so much to see here. What a treat.
Thanks for coming. And before you go, I mentioned earlier that spices are one of the most important things for cooking.
Yes.
And here we have our spice rack, my favorite part of the food bank. We actually buy spices in bulk and package them out so people can take home family-sized portions more easily of just what they want.
And I have to say it's the best smelling part too. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Laura with Raintree Nursery, and we will see you next time.